From above, it looks like a nervous system, a lattice of steel and concrete, pulsing with data and motion, goods, energy, people, flowing across a continent once torn apart by war. $600 billion. 30 years of coordination. 20-7 nations aligning their sovereignty. But this network wasn't born in peace. It was born from the ruins. Fade to black. 1. Sound remains. A train whistle, echoing into the past. In 1945, Europe was not a network. It was a graveyard of infrastructure. Bridges bombed. Ports mined. Railways severed into isolated fragments. Yet even in ruin, engineers returned first. Because they understood a truth older than empire. Civilization moves, or it collapses. Men in soot-blackened uniforms heat rivets over portable furnaces. A crane, powered by a repurposed diesel engine, lowers a steel truss into place. There are no grand speeches, only cold metal meeting colder hands. The first post-war network was not European. It was strategic. Coal from the Ruhr had to reach French factories. Steel from Belgium had to cross borders without tariffs or delay. Engineers began speaking a new language. Throughput, capacity, interoperability. The Cold War hardened borders, but trade quietly demanded permeability. Temporary repairs became permanent. Alignments, the continent was healing unevenly. A train from Milan to Munich could cross mountains, but not bureaucracy. Different voltages, different track signaling systems, different safety standards. Every border required mechanical compromise. Europe had roads. It did not yet have continuity.
We need it now. Yeah, schnell, look at the figure.
The idea emerged slowly. What if infrastructure was not national, but continental, not roads that stopped at borders, but corridors that ignored them? But this required something radical. Shared standards, shared funding, shared authority. Engineers could align steel. Politicians had to align sovereignty. The tension was electric. The Berlin Wall had fallen. Europe was reassembling itself, but unity demanded more than currency. It required movement. In 1991, transport corridors entered treaty law for the first time. Europe declared that infrastructure itself was a shared project, the Trans-European Transport Network. 10-D. Not a road. Not a railway, a blueprint for connection. The concept moved from treaty to terrain. Engineers walked riverbanks. Surveyors climbed mountain passes. They asked practical questions. How do you drill tunnels through the Alps without collapsing ancient rock strata? How do you deepen river channels without destabilizing floodplains? How do you standardize rail gauge electrification? Decades of incompatible systems. The dream required precision, not rhetoric, geometry. Ports became gateways of the network. Rotterdam extended itself into the sea. Sand pumped through steel arteries formed new land. Breakwaters absorbed winter storms. Container cranes rose like skeletal giants. The corridor began at water. And water required engineering against nature itself. Mountains resist human ambition. The Brenner Base Tunnel -55 kilometers through alpine granite. Tunnel boring machines advancedly meters per day. Rock pressure, watering grass. Microseismic instability. Each meter required steel ribs, concrete lining. Ventilation shafts. This was not symbolic engineering. It was endurance. In 2013, the blueprint sharpened. 9 core network corridors. Baltic-Adriatic. North Sea-Mediterranean. Rhine-Danube. Deadlines were declared. 2030 for the court. 2050 for full completion. 600 billion euros projected. Some called it unrealistic, others called it necessary. Because Europe had learned something across a century. Disconnected infrastructure breeds fragmentation. Connected infrastructure breeds stability. For the first time, a freight train crossed borders without stopping for mechanical conversion. Voltage harmonized, signals unified. The continent exhaled. The network was no longer theory. It was becoming infrastructure. Cut to black. The hum of rails fades into the sound of wind through unfinished construction sites. By 2014, Europe had recovered, cautiously, from economic collapse, budgets were thin, public trust was thinner. Yet freight volumes were rising again, air traffic was nearing saturation. Ports were straining, the core network corridors were no longer theoretical alignments, they were construction mandates. Deadlines were reaffirmed, a date that would test political endurance more than engineering capacity. The vote pauses, the work begins in earnest. Mountains are physical obstacles, but in the 21st century, the greater resistance came from society itself. Above the Susa Valley, protests erupted, concerns over environmental damage. Cost overruns, local displacement. Below ground, engineers drilled anyway. Each meter required geotechnical mapping with laser scanners, real-time monitoring of rock deformation, ventilation systems feeding compressed air through kilometers of temporary shafts. The tunnel advanced at a measured pace -8 to 12 meters per day. Not heroic speed, disciplined persistence. Rock remembers ancient rivers. When the drilling head fractured a pressurized aquifer, water surged into the chamber. Within minutes, pumps roared to life. Engineers injected cement grout into fissures, creating artificial seals inside fractured rock. Work paused. Then resumed. Modern tunneling was no longer brute force. It was negotiation with geology. By the 2020s, climate was no longer projection. It was force. Sea levels crept upward. Storm intensities increased. Ports, the lungs of the TEN-T system, faced existential threat. Engineers recalculated. Breakwaters thickened with additional concrete armor units. Storm surge. Gates automated with predictive AI models. Energy grids integrated. Offshore wind power directly into logistics hubs. Infrastructure was no longer static. It adapted, or it failed. Waterways had once seemed the most reliable corridors, but drought paralyzed the Rhine. Barges grounded on exposed RIVERBEDS. Industry stalled. The TEN-T philosophy shifted. Redundancy was not inefficiency. It was resilience. Rail corridors received emergency funding. Electrification projects accelerated. The network began to think like an organism, redistributing pressure. When one artery constricted, steel and concrete were no longer enough. The next phase of TEN-T was invisible. Fiber optics were buried alongside tracks, sensors embedded within bridges, signaling unifying under ERTMS. For the first time, trains across Europe could communicate through a shared digital language. This required replacing thousands of kilometers of incompatible national systems. Night shifts removed old signal masts. Engineers rewired substations, software teams tested fail-safe protocols, and network without digital coordination is merely infrastructure. With it, it becomes intelligent. In the Baltic states, rail gauge itself carried history. The Soviet-era broad gauge was incompatible with continental Europe. Rail Baltica became more than a railway.
Confirmed.
It was geopolitical realignment through steel. Track-laying machines advanced steadily. Gravel. Ballast compacted under hydraulic tampers. Overhead electrification poles erected in perfect intervals. Alignment measured in millimeters, but symbolizing centuries of political shift. The pandemic froze movement, airports empty, borders closed. For the first time, the network's purpose was questioned, but freight continued. Medical supplies, vaccines, food. Passenger terminals became temporary cargo hubs. Logistics engineers redesigned interior flows, temporary partitions, automated sorting lines installed under emergency timelines. The crisis revealed the truth. Mobility is not luxury. It is lifeline. By 2030, segments of the core network reach operational maturity. Ports synchronized with rail timetables. Digital clearance replaced paper customs. Hydrogen and battery electric locomotives reduced emissions. Movement accelerated, but with less friction. The continent's arteries strengthened. Yet completion remained distant. And climate pressures intensify. Fade to horizon, construction cranes still visible in the distance. The work is not finished. By 2030, the core network was partially operational, but incomplete. Certain corridors lagged, mountain tunnels faced geological delays, eastern highway segments stalled over land disputes. River modernization projects exceeded environmental thresholds. The deadline was no longer symbolic. It was geopolitical. Global supply chains were reorganizing around speed and reliability. If Europe fractured internally, its influence would fracture with it. The decision was made. Acceleration, permitting streamline. Joint cross-border engineering units formed, procurement centralized under shared digital platforms. Sovereignty bent, but did not break. The final missing links were rarely glamorous. They were remote. Difficult. Politically sensitive. The Carpathian section required deep foundation piles drilled into unstable clay, retaining walls layered with steel mesh and geogrid reinforcement, bridges assembled segment by segment, each piece transported along temporary access roads carved into hillsides. But something had changed. Environmental integration was no longer optional. Wildlife bridges arched over highways. Drainage systems filtered runoff before reaching rivers. The network no longer ignored nature. It negotiated with it. By the mid-2030s, the physical network was only half the system. Bridges, tunnels, ports, all pulsed with data. Sensors measured rail vibration frequency, bridge microfractures, traffic density fluctuations. Predictive algorithms scheduled maintenance spot for steel fatigued. But with intelligence came vulnerability. Cyber defense units operated continuously because a digital breach could paralyze a continent faster than any physical attack. 10T became not just infrastructure, but sovereign code. Freight evolved. Human drivers once guided trucks across borders. Now, vehicles moved in digitally coordinated platoons, separated by meters, reacting in milliseconds. Roadbeds were upgraded with high-tensile asphalt mixes resistant to heavier battery loads, embedded power transfer coils, enabling continuous charging, dynamic lane lighting adjusting to traffic algorithms, energy grids balance supply and real-time offshore wind and continental solar rays. Movement became frictionless. But frictionless movement raised a question. What happens to the human worker when coordination surpasses human reaction?
The depth rating here is critical.
As polar ice retreated, new maritime routes emerge. Northern ports expanded, quay walls reinforced with corrosion-resistant steel alloys, dock foundations insulated against freeze-thaw stress cycles, hydrogen fueling terminals installed. To decarbonize shipping, the network extended northward, not by accident, but by adaptation to a warming planet. Infrastructure followed climate, even when climate signaled warning.
The stress loads on this section are still too high.
I agree. We need to reinforce the span before morning.
By the mid-2040s, the comprehensive network, every major region, every corridor, neared completion. Old ballast tracks gave way to slab systems, reducing maintenance cycles. Bridges retrofitted with carbon fiber reinforcement. Electrification achieved near total coverage. Diesel locomotives became museum artifacts. Europe moved largely on electricity and hydrogen. The arteries were complete. In 2050, the Trans-European Transport Network is largely realized. 9 core corridors function continuously, ports integrated with inland waterways. Rail harmonized across voltage, gauge, and digital signaling. Completion required 30 years of political compromise, hundreds of thousands of workers, millions of tons of steel and concrete, relentless adaptation to crisis.
What happens to the human worker when coordination surpasses human reaction? We built upon the foundations of the past, reinforcing our bridges and leaving diesel behind.
The arteries were complete.
The cost exceeded early estimates, but so did the resilience gained. The continent moves with unprecedented cohesion, yet something else emerges in total connectivity: dependence. When every artery connects, failure in one ripples instantly through all. The network strengthened. Europe. It also bounded tightly. In 2049, a solar storm interrupted satellite links. For minutes, digital overlays flicker, but ground-based redundancies engage. Rail reverted to protected mode. Ports shifted to local control algorithms. Freight rerouted automatically. The network bent. It did not collapse. That was the final test, not perfection, but endurance. Fade to silence.
We have confirmed signal loss on arrays 4 through 7.
Rerouting data streams to the auxiliary network immediately.
We have a failure on the primary loop. Initiating ground protocols now.
The network bent. It did not collapse. That was the final test. Not perfection, Murd, but endurance.
Mobility underpins peace, prosperity, and strategic autonomy. The paths we build determine the flows of trade, culture, and power.